Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. We have here today a very special guest. Please welcome Kevin Interdonato. Kevin, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Wade. Thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure to have you, brother. I listened to the interview you did with Mark from Soft White Underbelly. It was amazing. And I've also listened to some of the ones you did with a mutual friend, Matt Cox.
Yeah.
And I watched the Bastard Son because everybody kept telling me about this ending that's really going to swerve you. And it's really something that you don't see in a lot of like mob-esque movies, that type of swerve. It was really out of left field. I don't want to spoil it. Obviously, I want people to go see it. We'll talk a little bit about that. I wasn't aware today. We talked off camera about your time in the military, and you and I have some similarities in our upbringing with the jobs that our fathers did. So we'll just kind of hop into it, man. And tell us a little bit about your early life and what that was like coming up, and we'll kind of work our way forward.
Yeah, sure, man. I was brought up in a family construction business. I was born with work boots on. My dad was originally a drywaller and a finisher, and my mom was a preschool teacher. And my father put himself through school and learned every aspect of building a home, started doing additions, remodeling, and everything. And then we got more into it. So, I had a good upbringing, man. I was from the Jersey Shore area. Love it. It's kind of scrappy down there. Still buddies with all the same guys I met when I was 13 years old. Went to Howell High School, played some sports. I was never great. I was always kind of good. Nothing really clicked for me. I was always searching for something. Joined the Army National Guard my senior year of high school. Went to boot camp, came out, and then went to college for a little bit. Found an acting class on a whim after that. And then the course was set, my man. That's kind of how things went.
Yeah. So you said he was a finisher. My dad also hung sheetrock. He hung it and finished it as well.
Yeah, cool.
So that was all the time. My summer jobs.
Yeah.
And, punishment too. If it's punishment, I didn't get paid for it. At least in the summer, I would get a little something at the end of the week. And he had gotten a DUI leaving a racetrack. And so back then, to get DUIs dropped was like $5,000. He didn't really have that. And he would get me to go pick up all of his guys and basically drive them around. And then I would do the sheetrock, too, when we were there. But I was his driver for a very long time. And I tell you what, I didn't mind all the aspects of it until the sanding. I hated the sanding of it.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Like it got all in my face and it broke me out. Like I didn't mind the hanging. I didn't mind the screwing in the studs. I didn't mind the mudding, but the sanding was just not for me, brother.
Yeah, same here, man. I couldn't stand it so much that I forced myself to be a better taper, so I barely had to sand. So by trade, I'm a drywall finisher by trade.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, by trade. My father used to stick me in the closets when I was a kid, and he made me spackle all the nails I got covered by the base because no one would see it. So that's how I started.
Okay.
And then it's just finishing houses on my own up until I was 30. When I was 30, I left Jersey to go to Los Angeles, and wouldn't you know it, I got on a paint crew and I started painting too. So I was a patch repair guy, paint guy, and that's kind of how I kept my head above water for a while until things started taking off, So thank God I had that trade,
Well, those trades, those are just something that like no machine's ever going to be able to replace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, since then, like I remember I bumped into a guy, we started coaching football together, and he does drywall and painting. And I went and he's got all these different things that just make the job so much easier. Like he had this one thing that was like you would load it up with mud and it had the tape where it come off and he would just start and go. I'm like, they didn't have that shit when I was doing it.
No,
my dad
man.
would walk around on the stilts and everything. Yeah. I'm sure your dad probably had those. And
I still got mine, man. I still got my stilts. I still got my tools, everything. Yeah.
I was never good at the stilts. I think the thing that he had in there that would bring it out, he called it a banjo.
Banjo, that's what it was.
Tape in there and fill the butt up the other end and just go down. Right. Yeah. When I heard you say that, I was like, wow, we got some similarities in there.
Yeah, I remember the banjo, man. Yeah, it did finish the jobs about 3 times faster. I never used it. I was my dad was old school, like I'm sure yours was, so he brought me up on a Hawk and trowel. I was a Hawk and trowel guy.
Yeah, if he
And
used to have those in there and he'd do it all by
yeah,
hand. It was amazing to sit there and watch him do that. And sadly he I forgot how old I was, but he had a stroke. So that kind of took him out of that business. But I mean, he was the man. He never liked to work about an hour. He always liked to work about a job because he can knock a
yeah,
job out quick.
yeah,
And
man.
he said, if they ever want me to work about an hour, they only need one job to realize they don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah. That's great. You know something, man? I tell you, till the day, even when I was becoming an actor and studying and starting to work and everything, I still considered finishing my first art. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I
Oh
always
yeah. It's an art to it, man.
it sure is, and I actually still love it till this day. So every now and then, when I got a day off, I hit my friends who are doing remodeling. I'm like, "You need a hand? I'll jump in."
Yeah.
I do miss it. I do miss it, man.
Yeah, well, it comes in handy if a lot of times parties or whatever things you hitting the walls, and I can't tell you how many times I got a hole in the wall, I got upset, and or the game I
Yeah,
bet on lost, and I got a hole. I need you to come over here and patch this hole. So
right,
your friends
right.
know about it, they be hitting you up.
I hear you, man. Same here.
Now, what drove you to join the service, if you don't mind me asking?
I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I was lost, man.
Okay,
I was completely lost. Like I said, I played sports. I started boxing in high school, outside of high school when I was like 17. But I just wanted to fight all the time, so that satisfied that. But there was just something missing. I always loved the idea of being a soldier.
mm-hmm.
So instead of just going away active duty, I went in the guard. My brother was in the guard the year before me. He's a year older than me.
Okay,
So he ended up being a drill sergeant. He was really squared away. I wasn't really the best soldier, so to speak.
mm-hmm.
Got a little trouble when I first started out, but eventually I cooled off and got a great bunch of friends, lifelong friends from the military too. And then that was that. And then I ended up going overseas a few years after that. And yeah.
Now, when you say trouble, was it more so like having to take direction from people? Because that's something that, depending on like your upbringing, going in and having somebody talk to you a certain type of way isn't the most easiest transition.
You know what got me about the military, man? The game of it. How I was supposed to play like this role, and how someone, because they have this tab on their collar, regardless of the kind of man they are, that I just have to obey and listen. So I had a lack of respect for rank. I can honestly
Yeah.
say I did,
Yeah.
because of the person behind it. But if it was a legitimate man, or even a woman in some cases, I locked my heels up. Of course, I respected the person, not the rank,
Right.
and that's not you're supposed to respect the rank, not the person. So
Right.
I was a little ass backwards back then, man. But I cooled out after a while. I cooled out.
And then, so with the reserves, like, did you go immediately over there? Did they just call you up every now? How did that work with the reserves?
The same garden reserves, the same. So that's a weekend a month, and then 2 to 4 weeks every summer. You kind of
Right.
go in on your mission, your bivouac, or we went to Fort Dix a lot, went to Fort Drum in upstate New York a lot. I did love it, man. I mean, when you join the military like that, especially the guard, they give you all this equipment as soon as you join up. From toolboxes to tents and sleeping bags and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, this is great. It's all free shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was great. So I went camping a lot with, all my military stuff, whatever, and doing the time in the summers. That was a lot of fun too. I mean, I drove tanks. Not many people could say they drove tanks. I was a mechanic in a field artillery unit. So
Okay.
much like a mechanic, when they got to fix a car, they go test drive it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a bunch of pretty wild guys in Jersey there. So we had to go fix something. That test drive was a lot of fun. And we had tanks doing 60, 65 miles per hour. We take the governors off. We're jumping them, and it was a good crazy time, man. Yeah.
I heard you talking about like in the training, like you were doing it in some cold weather, and then immediately it was like, almost reverse, complete opposite of that. You had to go in some hot weather. Like,
Yeah.
what was that difference like, going from like, single digit temperatures to just like boiling ass hot temperatures? What was it?
Yeah,
Was that
that
a
was
shock to
wild.
the body?
Yeah, it was wild. It's amazing what you can adapt to, man. You just got to
Yeah.
be thrown in certain circumstances, and then your willpower to do so. You're referring to when I was getting ready to deploy to
Yeah.
Baghdad.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was goddamn cold. We were in Fort Dix in the dead of winter. Single digits. We were there for 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks, and then bam, we're on a plane to Kuwait City in Kuwait to acclimate for about I think it might have been like 8 or 9 days, and that was wild. And even that phase of my life, I was about 7 years into the National Guard at that time, so I was 24, and it was hard to kind of like accept that there was actually happening. You know what I mean? You just go from American soil, all of a sudden, bam, you're there, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, that's a cool.
You're just like,
yeah.
Holy shit, this is real. This is real. And we had no idea what we were going to get into. We had no clue. And after, I don't know, I guess after 10 days, they put us in the back of cattle trucks, and it was in the dead of early AM hours. It was dark, and we just drove into Baghdad. I think it was like a 3-hour cattle call ride, and that was that.
Wow. And then what kind of experiences did you guys have going over there? Because you detailed, I think, I forgot which interview I was watching, but you said it was basically a bunch of guys that didn't necessarily have a ton of like military experience. These are guys that was, had everyday jobs, but you guys quickly had to adjust to the situation. What kind of situation did you find yourself into?
Well, it was really something, man. It was heavy combat. It was. We were kind of thrown into it. So we were field artillery in New Jersey, and they converted us to military police because there was a shortage of military police in Baghdad at the time. So when we got there, we thought we were just going to train and mentor the Iraqi police. That's what we were told in Fort Dix. They gave us these little thick books to go over the language and learn Arabic and stuff. And that only goes so far unless you hear it. It's like why all this weird shit. So I was trying to learn it, but anyway, we got there and it was a little odd. We really couldn't feel it. All I could feel was that regardless of what was shown publicly before we left, there was not many people there happy to see us. It was not like this overjoyed. No. It more felt like, you're rolling into the wrong neighborhood, and you're on base. But when you leave base, you roll out 3 Humvees deep. Well, for us, it was like 2 Humvees at first, but you're rolling into someone's neighborhood, man. And it's, where we were, it was essentially ghetto. It was high apartment complex buildings. It was very, very low income. There's a lot of crime, and you're rolling in this neighborhood, man. And you're in 3 Humvees, and if you're a gunner on top, the 3 gunners were the only ones that people could see. And man, everyone's just looking at you with daggers, everyone, man, woman, and child. And it's to experience that's an interesting thing. And you got your finger on the trigger at all times, and things happen,
Yeah. I've had some buddies that kind of like your situation when they graduated, they didn't really know what they wanted to do. And some of them joined up the services. One joined the Marines, but the one that joined the Army, like before we went, when he graduated, I graduated a year prior to him, and I had a surgery that kept me from enrolling in college. So I was waiting to the next year to enroll because I was going for welding, and we done like a lot of partying. I mean, that was all we did. And he went over there like this laid back, cool, funny, cracking jokes. But when he got back, it was totally different. And he was over there along the same time. I think it was when they got Saddam.
Yeah.
And they pulled him out of that hole. I don't know if he was necessarily in that group, but I know he was over there and he's seen a lot. And when he come back, you could just tell, like, he was still the same guy, but it was very quiet. It was reserved. And even my wife, who met him at the time before he went over there, she's like, I can just tell he's not the same person. And it took a piece from him. And I think that's one thing that, and I may take some heat for saying this, but I don't really give a shit. I think the fact that our military only gets a day and certain letter groups get a whole month, like it's really shitty to me that they only give our veterans 1 day of remembrance. And then because you've got a few, fucking letters here and there attached to your group or your party or whatever, you get a whole month. I think that's shitty. The sacrifices that you guys make that some people don't even make it back from. And then some people do, and their lives are changed forever. Some of them are missing limbs, and it's a life-changing event. It's definitely something that I think is worth a whole hell of a lot more than a day of remembrance. And I know you experienced some things over there, and I don't want to get too deep, but I do want to tell you thank you for your services. And I think it's something that everybody needs to keep in mind, that when people make that decision to go over there and serve our country, they're putting their life on the line, and it's, unless you've done it, it's just something that I don't think you have someone in your family that may have done it, and you see, the change in them. It's something that you carry for, you're never going to get rid of it. You're going to always carry. It's going to always be in the back of your mind, especially when you're in, deep combat situations.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for saying that, man.
Yeah.
That's kind of you and appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you feel that you're different too. You feel that you're different.
Yeah.
And I think when I first came back, took a while for me to like go to talk to somebody. And he explained it pretty clearly to me, and it kind of made sense in a physical way. He's like, when you leave, if you picture like a three-way mirror, and when you leave, you're this guy, and when you come back, you're this guy, and you're trying to get to this old guy. It's gone. So it's just trying to find a happy medium, be that new person in the middle. You know what I mean? Some stuff's just gone. You can't connect to it anymore. It's just
right.
It's almost like a loss of innocence in a way,
And for people who don't know a lot of the history of like motorcycle clubs, that's why a lot of motorcycle clubs were formed, because it was guys that come from service that needed some sort of adrenaline. Yeah, it was adrenaline rush, and they come back, and it's like you put people in the most tense, hostile situations imaginable, and then they come back and you're like, all right, going back into society where everything is calm, and we've got rules and regulations you got to follow and all this. And it's just like, how do you get something that matches that? And so that's how, like, a lot of the earlier, Hell's Angels, that's where a lot of those things come from, was guys coming back from service that wanted that, still that camaraderie and that brotherhood of being over there in service, but also riding that bike, giving you something that even closely represented the thrill that you had over there. Thrill might even be the wrong word, but that mindset, I guess, would probably be better.
Yeah, no, I get it. You know what it is, man? I know where you're going with this. It almost feels like I'm sinning saying this. I'm not even a religious guy, but I'll never get that high again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a different thing, and it's shameful for me to say that, because with that high, some really nasty and unfortunate things happened. But I'd be lying if I said, I did chill a lot, but there's still something in me, and way more when I was younger, when I came back, that I yearned for it. I yearned for that high again.
My son just, it's crazy now with TikTok, and people put these clips of all these shows, and he's on summer break right now. He's 15, and they put a clip up of the show Prison Break, from years ago. And so he started rewatching it, and I watched it when it was on, and I'm in like the second season. I forgot how good that damn show was.
Yeah.
And I'm in the second season, and the doctor, the female doctor who was Michael Scofield, the main character's love interest, she says they're out of prison, and they're running from everybody who's trying to catch them. And she says, is there a part of you somewhere deep down that thrives on this? Like, this is where you're happy. And I think sometimes we can get there, even though it's hectic, and it's, everybody else will be like, God, I can't imagine doing that. In a way, that's kind of your comfort zone. You thrive on that edge of your seat, thinking on your feet type of thing. You can thrive on that. It gives you, I guess, a euphoria, like you said, a high, not necessarily, from a drug, but it puts you on that level of, getting that in there. It's hard to go from that back to just regular society. It's really hard.
Yeah, very much so, man. And what I chose for a career, kind of, for lack of better words, it really gave me an opportunity to I guess just have that side of me, that inner urge, that angst, come out in a at least in a positive way.
Right.
Especially being an actor. I write and direct now too, and all that stuff. And with producing, I just throw myself into work constantly. So, I'm married. I got a kid. I don't do the bar thing anymore. Those days are done. But if I could just throw myself into work, and I get those moments, those highs, they do exist, and it's just like moments of fulfillment in a sense, you know.
You get those things in some capacity. How did the acting come about?
That just satisfied something in me, man. Like I was saying, I took it on a whim after boot camp. It was maybe about 6 months after. No, I apologize, a year after, and it just triggered something. It was something in me that very first acting class I went to. I was like, this might be it. I just felt it. It felt right. I felt at home. There was something inside of me that was like, this is the release I needed. You know, it was therapeutic. At the same time, it wasn't about, I never wanted my name up in lights. Till the day, I'm not that kind of guy. For me, it was all about the work, and it still is. And then, just still searching for those levels of fulfillment through as an actor, and then making films now too.
You had a couple spots on The Sopranos when it first come out. I think one of the scenes you had was where you were roughing up one of the appraiser that they had, the what do you call it, the HUD scam?
Yeah, that's it.
So how did you land the Sopranos gig?
That was a freak thing, man. I mean, I wasn't in the union or nothing. I was still kind of green. And there's a lot of scam agencies in New York and all that stuff starting out. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a casting director was. I didn't know anything. All I knew is I wanted to be an actor and express myself that way and put all that energy, ball it up, and go that way with it.
Right.
So I found some jerk off agent at the time. Gave him my headshot, my resume. He's like, okay, you got a good look. You'll hear from me when there's auditions. I said, okay. Never heard from the guy. And then on a whim, he just hit me up one day. He said, got an audition for The Sopranos. And I was actually in the middle of shooting an independent film. I had the lead in it. So when you have a lead in a movie, it's like, it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
You can't just duck out, even though it was like a no budget feature. It was in Freehold, New Jersey. But I told the producer, I said, hey, I have an audition for this show called The Sopranos. At the time, I didn't even watch it, which is like sacrilegious because I'm a
I was about to say that's a little blasphemy right there.
Yeah. So I didn't even watch it, but they're like, go, we'll change the shooting schedule. I was like, all right. So make a long story go, I went in, read for it. It was one line, dude. I had to travel all the way to freaking Queens to read one line and come all the way back.
You went to Silver Cup?
What's that, man?
You go to Silver Cup?
With a Silver Cup, yeah. And they call me back again. I had to go back 2 days later, say the same line again. Then they call me back. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, same line? I'm like, this is ridiculous, man. So the group of people I was auditioning against, it started like hundreds. And then it went down to like, I don't know, maybe like 50 dudes. And then like the third time I went, it was like this, just like 5 or 6 guys in the waiting room. And I knew I stood out. So I don't know what they wanted. They told me the character name was Dogsy. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right. So I dressed a little grungy, even though I was Italian. And everyone else was really, baked, clean, tan, gelled, and all that stuff. And I wasn't. Went in, read the line. Everybody laughed. I walked out on the train ride home. They said, you got it. And I was like, yeah, I was surprised.
Did you have to deal with Georgianne Walken at all?
Yeah, she was the casting director. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard that name mentioned so many times because I've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of guys from Sopranos, and I wasn't aware that I was actually Christopher Walken's wife.
Yeah.
They said she was like the go-to for like the mob roles, the bad guys, the bad characters. She was like the one that you called to cast all that.
That's funny, man. Yeah, she had her foot in that show, man. Yeah.
Did because how many episodes were you in? Like 3?
They cut a lot, man. I was in 3. One was I was completely removed of. One they took my lines out of. So ultimately 2. And then I was supposed to go back for the next season, and that's when I got activated to go to Baghdad. I couldn't do it.
Okay, so that was what I was trying to get to. You were supposed to come back. They were supposed to actually, I think, expand the role a little bit. Yeah. And that's when you had to go to Baghdad.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you make any, did you talk to anybody on the set for those 2 shots that you did? Did you, how is it as an actor? Do you come in, do you try to make friends, gain contacts? Like for me in the podcasting world, when I go to places to do interviews, I'm talking to any and everybody because you never know where a conversation might lead you to, to the next person. Like, for instance, me, I got, to know you by talking with Tom, and he made that introduction. I got to talking to Tom through Matt. So you never know where one domino is going to lead you, at least in this type of game. Is it that way for an actor, especially going into that, area? Are you, kind of talking with everybody, feeling everybody out? What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was on set for a few days. It's kind of, it's really not like hanging around. When you go to a movie set, when you go to the set, you park where they tell you to park. They tell you where your trailer is, and there's all trailers lined up. You go right to your trailer, then you go to makeup, then you come back to your trailer, you go to wardrobe, you come back to your trailer, then you're just in your trailer. You're outside. I was a smoker back then, so I was outside. Usually smoking, it's kind of social, so you kick it. But you don't really get to see anybody until you're on set when they call you to come work. When you get to go work, it's a really weird thing. Like everyone's in this hub, but everyone's in their own little thing, and no one knows. Your name is on the door of every trailer. Everyone's just kind of like huddled in, but not until you actually go work and they knock on that door is when you get there and you see everybody. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then between takes, you go into the break room, you mingle, you shoot the shit a little bit. So yeah, I met a couple nice guys on the show and kept in touch with a couple through the years. Good dudes,
Did you do, because if I'm not mistaken, going back, was Joe Pantaleone the one, at least storyline wise, he was the one that had to give you the order to go rough up that appraiser?
No, I think that was, it wasn't filmed, but I worked for Christopher under Tony.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember on the appraiser, Ralph Cifaretto was the character name, and it was Joe Pantaleone that was, had a lot of that going on with that whole HUD scam. And that was one of my favorite seasons, man, with that going on. That was a lot. It's so hard to pinpoint one thing. Have you watched the entire show now since you've been on?
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
I think that I loved it when I first saw it, and then I rewatched it a couple years ago and had a whole new appreciation for it. Being 15 years older, watching it, you know what I mean?
It's got such a rewatchability factor to it. And I tell people this, and people are probably tired of me saying this quote, but I'll keep saying it just because it's true. The only thing that dates that show is the technology. The writing, and this speaks to probably why you say you had one line and you came back 3 times. That's the attention to detail that they put into that show to make sure they had the right guy for the right part, no matter how little they wanted the right guy. And it shows because that show is so well written, so well done. And the only thing that dates it is technology. Like phones, they got flip phones, computers, they got big computers. Outside of that, the storylines, that show could air tomorrow and be a hit show.
Yeah, easily, man. They really pulled it off. And just at that time, too. I think the only show before that had some kind of shock factor was Oz. Remember Oz?
Oh, I loved Oz.
Yeah, Oz and The Wire kind of opened up on HBO back then. And then Sopranos was like silver platters. Bam.
Oz was like that landmark show, and it really pushed the envelope. I don't know if you could make Oz today.
I don't know.
So many like actors that like now are still doing stuff. Like Dean Winters is the Mayhem guy.
Yeah, I just saw him like a month ago. He did a play with my wife. Yeah.
Oh, really? He's awesome, man. I love Dean, and he was so good in Oz. I don't know if this is true. You may know, but I'd heard or read that he had never acted before.
I heard that too. He was like a bartender or something like that, and just kind of got picked up. Sometimes, man, there's elements of that people have that just kind of fit.
Yeah.
With the Bastard Sons, the film I did, half that cast was non-actors, and I did that on purpose because there was budget was an issue, but it was a very realistic film. I don't like anything performance. It is like real authentic people, and there's certain qualities I was looking for in people that don't know how to act, which is great because they don't know how to act. You know what I mean? That's the whole point.
A little bit more natural.
Yeah. And, I had a couple of buddies of mine from high school. My dad was in it, all my buddies from back home. And there was, a podcast I did with Roger Matthews and Frankie Edgar.
Yep.
And I got friendly with them. And then there was a couple of people that couldn't do the roles because they were scheduling. So I was thinking about whom I'm going to get to fill. And I'm like, Roger and Frankie been in the spotlight for so long. They've been on camera so much. They're so comfortable. Because sometimes you know, you could tell, man, people put on a camera at a party or with people just like change.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
get tight or they start putting on whatever, you know, and it's like, you know, they just kind of stayed. And I was like, that's a very important quality to have because these cameras are a lot bigger and there's lights all over the place. And if you can kind of have that and just also just relax and then have the ability to just want to be an adult and fucking play. Like you just got to play and get into it. And it worked. They were both like great. And so was everybody else. And it just kind of worked.
Yeah. Frankie was good in there, man. And he had never acted before.
No, he told me, he's like, oh, I did a commercial with a tiger once. I was like, there's a far cry from that, man.
Yeah, not quite the same thing. But you had a mix of veterans in there that can balance it out. Al Sapienza, for instance, who was also in Sopranos. Great guy, man. He's a veteran, been around, done a ton of stuff, great work, and he played good. And you want to know what I like? Like, you know, you talked about budgeting being an issue, and that becomes, you know, a challenge to you, the director, of how you can pull off things and still deliver, but you don't necessarily have the budget to go high tech. And you stole, or I don't say stole, but you, to me anyway, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of Hitchcocked it. You let the mind do a lot of the work in there. I think to probably, you know, obviously it would save money, but like some of the beatings that Frankie was given, you know, with bats and everything, you see it, you know what he's doing. You see the bat, you see it covered in blood, but you don't necessarily see the end result, much like you with The Rock and the fighting scene.
Right.
And that's, I think in a way that's kind of better because everybody can play it in their mind differently.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one way, because when you see something visually happen, it's in your mind that that's okay, that happened to him. But when it's up to the mind of the watcher, it can be whatever.
Well, we're so desensitized from everything we've seen publicly online, everything, the news, you know, watching some crazy fucking videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Everything's already been done.
Yeah.
But what I found was, as you know, going through the years as an actor, I was fortunate to play a lot of lead roles. So I got used to telling stories. And I made a couple films as a producer before Bastard Sons. That's the first one I directed. So as a producer, I was in post-production with the sound. And that's when I realized, like, sound is everything. If you close your eyes and listen to something, it's so much more disturbing than seeing it because you've already seen everything. Yeah. So even if I had a bigger budget, those shots that you were referencing, they probably would have been the same. The money would have went to other things to make the shoot a lot easier, you know? Right. But I was fortunate, man. I had some really good people around me. And I think that was the key to keep it low. There's a bunch of people that were just, for lack of a better word, man, just gangsters. They were just warriors. They just wanted to do something, you know, that was going to be great. And that's what I was striving for the whole time. And, you know, I just had a pool of people around me that was like-minded. So when you get a pool of people like that in anything, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's what equates to a winning football team or winning basketball, like everything. Yeah. And on that film, there was minimal crew, minimal actors, and everyone was just a gangbuster. And it just went, man.
Yeah. And that's kind of when you can harness that, that's when you can get something special that comes across screen. I mean, obviously if you have the unlimited budget or whatever, you can put together a good show, but a lot of times it is shoestring budget things that just kind of work and click. And, you know, Tom Fontana is a great example of that. Like, I don't really know what the budget was when he done Oz, but I don't think it was much. And, you know, a lot of those guys, at least at that point, like you rewatch that thing now from season 1, you see a lot of famous people, but they weren't to that level yet.
Right.
Right. Dean wasn't the Mr. Mayhem guy from Insurance, you know.
Right.
I forget his name. It's escaping me. The Schillinger.
Which one is that, dude?
He was the bald guy, the lead Nazi. J.K. Simmons, yes.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons, he wasn't, you know, doing Spider-Man and Farmers Only and all that. You know, these guys, Chris Maloney, I mean, tons of guys in there that have great careers. But now when you watch it, like they weren't that known. Edie Falco, she was in there as a prison guard in season 1. So
there's a lot. Remember Luke Perry? Luke Perry jumped in there, man.
Luke Perry was in there. LL Cool J made a spot. What was the guy? He played Supreme Allah. I can't remember his name. I can't remember.
Yeah, that was something, man. And Tom Fontana, he's a friend of mine and my wife because we were on his show.
Yeah, City on the Hill.
Yeah, he's a super guy, man. Uncle Tom, super guy, and we really hit it off well too. And you know, you pick up from guys that've been in that world, you know. And I'm kind of fortunate to have people that have been around at a high level to see what goes into it. And man, look at it like this too. Like go back to the job, working the job site, right? Drywall or taping. If you need the work and you have a lot to offer, and you have a job in front of you, and you're getting paid $100 a day. For me, $100 a day or $1,000 a day, you're gonna get my 100%.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're still gonna get my 100%. I needed those people that were gonna give 100%, regardless of the minimal cost. You know what I mean? Because I was holding that bar pretty high, because that's how I am. Whether it's this amount, I agree to it. You're getting all I got. That's it. So money to me, when I started the Bastard Sons, it was more of a business model. It didn't equate to talent. It's just that who was able to take the job, and that's really what it came down to.
Yeah. Now, you said your wife works on City on the Hill, and then
series
y'all kind
regular.
of alternated seasons, right? Or like she would shoot and then you would shoot.
The same. So yeah, I dipped in the first season. I had a couple one-liners here and there, and they bumped me up on the second season. So yeah, we shot that in Brooklyn a lot. And we were in North Jersey at the time. So
it's crazy. Based in Boston, they shoot in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know. I guess it was cheaper.
Probably.
Right. So that's really what it comes down to. It's always just the money with that stuff.
Did you ever meet or talk with Michelle McPhee?
You know Michelle?
Yeah, I've had her on.
Yeah, man, Michelle's great. Sure.
She is great. I love Michelle. You know what? I don't know. I don't guess I'm not supposed to tell this, but she connected me with probably one of the coolest guests I've ever had. He doesn't do a ton of podcasts, but he said, he even told me, he's like, I don't know you. I would probably not do this, but Michelle vouched for you, so I'll do it. It was Oscar Goodman. Now, if you don't know do you know who Oscar Goodman is?
Saw the video.
Oh, okay. So for people that don't, like, he was basically the mob lawyer for all of the mobsters from back in the day. If anybody watched the movie Casino, oddly enough, he plays himself as Joe Pesci's lawyer in the movie, but he was the lawyer of the real guy, Tony Spilotro, who Joe Pesci was portraying. And I went to Vegas last year and I stayed at the Plaza, and he's got his restaurant in there, Oscars. And outside of the restaurant is like a bronze statue of him and Tony standing there talking.
Wow.
But, I mean, it was just so cool to interview him. I mean, just, he went on to be the mayor of Las Vegas. I think currently his wife was the mayor. At least she was. I don't know if she still is. But I mean, he's royalty up there in Vegas, man. He had a big hand in putting together the mob museum. But yeah, Michelle got me that hookup, man. Michelle was great. I loved having her.
Yeah, she's a hustler, man. She goes and gets it. Yeah, if you ever need someone interesting to talk to, call Michelle.
Oh, 100%. And when we spoke, she's like, I think it might have been, this was what helped me, was I had J.D. Williams on the show, who played Bodie in Oz. He played Wangler in Oz. He played Bodie in The Wire. We done as a interview. I put out some clips and I tagged Tom Fontana in it, and he followed me.
Hey.
So when I hit Michelle McPhee, she was like, do you know Tom Fontana follows you? And I was like, yeah. I said I had JD Williams. And that's when we started talking, and then we were able to link up. She come on the show, but yeah, she's awesome, man. I've never had a chance to meet her in person. Hopefully one day, but she's crazy about City on the Hill. She loves it. And it is a great show.
Yeah, it's too bad they canceled it, man. There's a lot of people that enjoyed it and stuff, and you know, people move on.
What's my man? He was the young kid in there. I keep forgetting his name. He was also in the Black Donnellys. I don't know if you ever seen him.
Tucker. Yeah,
Tucker. Yes, Tucker. What's his last name or first name?
It's Jonathan Tucker.
Jonathan Tucker. Okay.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah.
Did you watch the Black Donnellys? Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't remember that show. I love that show.
It was one season. And,
one season and went away, but like, I love that. I don't know why that didn't catch on. It's crazy how some of these things don't catch on, but God, that was a good show. I thought it was well done, well written.
I know it. It was a lot of fun to watch, man. He's a great dude. He played my wife's husband on the show.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how we got friendly and everything. And then I don't know if you know this, but the character in The Bastard Son's named Guy. His name's never referenced, but he is. But he's got a mustache. He's by the red Cadillac for the gunfight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Chuck McClane. He's the creator of City on a Hill.
Really?
Yeah, so he wrote the show. So he was hired by Ben Affleck to write the show, and then him and Tom Fontana teamed up and did it. So I met Chuck doing the show. We hit it off, and he's a character, man. He's like that in real life. He's a great dude. He's a friend of mine. And yeah.
Yeah, that was the shootout scene. He ducked behind that Cadillac. That was a good little scene. I could see it's one of those things where like you can see what's coming, but it's still seeing it actually take place and everything. That was a good scene. And then it paralleled, what you had going on at the same time. And I thought that was very cool how you kind of played that back and forth.
Cool, man.
That's cool. So City on it. What did you work with Bacon much or get to speak with Bacon much at all?
Speak with, yeah. Work with, no, because it was like same days and stuff like that. So like I was saying, like you go in the break room and everything, and I just kind of chop it up with whoever's there. And yeah, he's a really chill, cool guy, man. Yeah.
City on the Hill is like the only thing because he puts on a heavier accent in City on the Hill, and he did it also in the movie Sleepers.
Right.
And like I love Sleepers. Sleepers is one of my favorite movies, and I kind of got a little Sleepers vibe from your movie, the way you were narrating and everything. I kind of got a little Sleepers vibe, but Sleepers was one of my favorites. I thought he played such a great bad guy. Like I never rooted for anybody to die in a movie. I don't think until this day, maybe. I'm sure I have, but like you just wanted him to kill that dude.
Yeah.
It's through.
Classic movie, man. And ironically enough, Tucker's in that too.
He is. Yep. Yeah. He's one of the kids in there. I mean, there was the one kid in there that he wound up dying, right? He was older. Was it Renfro?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Renfro, man.
Renfro wound up dying. Renfro. Yep.
Yeah. So those dudes I kind of came up with in a sense. There was like this independent film scene in the mid to late 90s, early 90s really, that it was starting to come up, and it was really heavy out of New York. And all those cats, man, they were all jumping in. It was like this awesome vibe. And that's when people could start making more and more movies on their own because everything got a lot cheaper. Digital cameras, DV cams, and people were filming like crazy. So there's this awesome indie scene in New York that was great back then.
Who was the guy that played Shakes? He was in Sopranos. He was just in Power. Is it
Shakes
Joe? He was in Sleepers. He played the younger version of Shakes in Sleepers.
So was it Billy Crudup or
no? I want to say Joe something.
It was one of the four kids, right?
Yeah, he was the main character. He was on Sopranos. He played towards the end of the season. I think he was one of the Parisi's son, and then he was in The Wire. He was in the Italians and The Wire, or no, not The Wire. Power.
Jeez, I forget, man.
I can't name, man.
I can't put a finger on it. But that movie had some heavy hitters in it, man.
Dude, I mean, everybody, like there was a game going around back then. I don't know if you remember, but it was called the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And like Sleepers was always my go-to to get back and get back to him because everybody was in that movie.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, man. And once
Joseph Perennia. I think that's how you say his name. Joseph Perennia.
I know the face. I didn't know his name.
Yeah, he was the main, I guess you would call it main character of the young when they were kids. Gotcha. And went in there. He was the one, Shakes. But yeah, De Niro, Dustin Hoffman. I mean, just crazy people in there, man.
Right.
Brad Pitt, Jason Patrick. I mean, just I can't even think of all the names in there. It was just crazy. When you work like that, I know a lot of people say, like, how do you afford a budget? Is that a situation where with an actors kind of have an idea that this is something special, that a lot of them work for scale?
It helps to have friends, man. You know what I mean? That's how I got Sons done. It just helps to have friends, dude. And I would return the favor as well because I know how hard it is to get a movie done. It's close to impossible, man. It's really crazy.
Well, like another one that I remember, I don't know if you remember, I'm blanking on the movie now. It had Sylvester Stallone where he was the Copland. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
And like you watch that, I mean, it's just a who's who.
Oh yeah.
I mean, crazy. And I was reading like some of the IMDb, and it said that a lot of times when you have a movie like that, it's just full of just, top-notch guys that a lot of them agree to work for scale. So you had De Niro, Sly Stallone, Peter Berg was in there. Ray Liotta, rest in peace, was in there. Michael Rappaport was in there. Keitel, Frank Vincent even had a little spot in there.
Annabella Sciorra, right? She played Stallone's girl.
Stallone's girlfriend. What's the other girl? She was the cop. Real distinctive. I can't remember her name, but I mean, just a ton of people in there, man. Great movie. I love that movie. And
it comes down to the budget, man. You know, it's like who's willing to work, who could do it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, some jobs you get paid, man, some jobs you get paid good. Like you get paid good. And then but you'll never see their paycheck. Sometimes you'll get paid okay, but it's on a TV series and that show just goes and goes and goes. And thank God for residuals, man. It keeps your head afloat. You know, it does. Because you're consistently out of work, essentially. An actor is consistently unemployed. Right. And there's like that weird feeling of everyone knows what it feels like not to have work. It's the worst feeling in the fucking world as a man to not have work. Yeah. So you kind of embrace that and just keep constantly looking for work. And you just kind of scar up and get used to that feeling, you know. That's why I started making my own films too, man. I couldn't coming from similar backgrounds, I couldn't deal with being in my mid-30s and my life was dictated by someone that I'll never even meet. My picture on a headshot goes to on someone's desk. They say yay or nay based on anything. If that picture goes higher, they want to audition me. They audition me. They don't like me because I'm like, fuck you. Like, I can't deal with that. So when I got an audition, cool, I did my thing. But in the meantime, all that downtime, instead of staring up at the stars, you know, I put pen to paper and learned the business. And it's benefited me in a lot of ways.
It's similar to Anthony Corone. You know Anthony?
Older guy?
Older guy. He was in We Own the Night.
Yes.
And he's a great actor. In Oz. Yeah, great actor. He was in Oz too. He was Frank the Fixer. He was the one that stabbed the guy in the wheelchair. I was just interviewed him about a week or two ago, and he was the same thing. He was like, he said I'd have probably got a lot more jobs if I would have learned to, you know, not learn, but like willing to play the game and kiss a little ass. He said, but I'm not that guy. You're going to get what you get. And you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And he's like, when you get me, you know what you're getting. You're going to get that guy. And you know, he was great in there, man. He's one of them guys that's been in everything. Like when I was prepping for that interview, there was just so much shit to cover. I'm like, I don't even know if I'll be able to fit it in, because it's like not huge parts, but he's got key parts that you remember in every little thing. Like he was in Cape Fear, he was in Wild Things, he was in Out of Time with Denzel, he was in Oz, you know, and he's doing a lot of stuff with my friend Ciro DiPaggio down in Florida, who did The Mob King, and then they have the movie Silent Partners that is coming out here soon. They're going to have the premiere for that. And The Mob King, man, it turned out well with the budget that they had, with what they turned out. We went to the Hard Rock Hotel last year for the premiere, and I flew up to go to it because I had followed his quest, I guess, to get that movie done. They were going to do a TV series. Wow. The guy went to Spain. He got real sick. He come back. It had generated so much buzz. It was almost a Facebook funded movie. When he started, he shot one episode and released it in like 5 or 6 minute mini episodes. And it drummed up enough, you know, buzz that they were going to shoot it in Spain because it was cheaper and, you know, do a TV series. Well, when he got sick, he almost died. And with that, it kind of grew, and the popularity of him grew. And so he decided, you know what, I don't even want to do the TV series no more. We'll come back and do a movie, since we still own the rights to the name and everything. They hadn't actually started shooting yet. And he come back, they shot the movie. James Russo was in it. Artie Pasquale was in it.
Good guy.
Good. So I got a chance to meet all those guys, and Anthony Corone was in it. And it was cool going there and meeting all those guys at the premiere. They had, like I said, they had it at the Hard Rock, and it had food and everything. And they showed the movie. Bruce Socia.
Yes.
Yep, he was in it. He was like one of the kind of the main bad guy going up against Ciro. So, you know, independent filmmaking, I think it's a tougher business, but I think there's a lot more satisfaction that comes from that when you get that finished product. It comes out to know that you guys put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. When there's movies that some people don't even know, that like they might have a director credit, but sometimes they weren't even there. They didn't even show up. They directed from not even being on the set. And there's just I think there's a disconnect with that,
Yeah, there is. The bigger the set, the less you feel anything. An independent film is like this small, short-lived family that comes together, and you get so fucking tight that you have lifelong friendships. And that's like the other side of the business. I wouldn't expect anybody to think like that, but they're like these little high stakes journeys you go on, throughout your career with that, whether you're producing and directing it or you're just a part of it.
Yeah.
If you're hired on, and you meet some wonderful people along the way, man, and it's those memories that last just as long as the movie lives in the public eye. It's those wonderful memories. Like if someone said, Kev, what you do in 2007? Very rarely will I go back to my personal life. I'm like, oh, I shot this film in Brooklyn, then I went to Denver and shot. Like it's just like a personal memory that has emotion connected to it,
Right.
So yeah, it's a trip. And nowadays, man, you have to have an entrepreneurial mind. You have to be so savvy and think 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead beyond the creative. So much like we have a split screen right here, half of it's creative and the other side's got to be business. And if you don't have that business savvy, man, unfortunately, I've seen some wonderful films that no one will ever see, ever. They just kind of go, and it's a shame. So before you take that journey, you really got to do it. And you know what it's kind of like too, man? If you want me saying, it's kind of like, and you'll understand this, and hopefully your viewers will. Making independent film is the business structure, the business model. It's kind of like flipping a house.
Yeah.
If you and I bought 2 houses right next to each other, identical houses, we're going to put some work into it and add a bedroom and a bathroom and beef them up, right? So I buy this one house here for 100. You buy yours for 50, right? You just get a better deal. You wait out, you buy for 50. I put $100,000 into it to fix it up, but you know how to make things go. You do a lot of things yourself. You get hookups. You got cousins, this and that. So I'm $100,000 in for repairs. You're 50 in repairs. But at the end of the day, when the houses are done, it's the same exact house. You made it for cheaper than I did. So if you can do that without sacrificing creative and production quality and integrity, the movie stands to make more money, just like a flip. It's the same thing. A lot more moving parts, but it's the same thing. And I think that's why I understand it so well, because like you, I came from that business. I'm like, oh, I get it. This makes sense.
Even with the podcasting too, man, like I never expected when I first started this to be at the point to where I'm at now. And I'm not saying I'm, Joe Rogan. I'm far from Joe Rogan. I aspire to be
Wade, brother. Yeah,
I'm Hollywood Wade.
That's it.
But just for the capability to be able to talk to some of the people, like yourself, like Michelle McPhee, have these conversations with people that otherwise I would have never done. I had the chance, and you worked with him. I interviewed Tom Sizemore. I was one of the last guys that, he did interview, unfortunately, before he passed away. And, I talked with Tom a good bit through text before and after. And, and I don't, maybe he says this to everybody. I don't know, but I really felt it was so genuine. When we got done, we done the first interview. It went for like an hour and 20 minutes. And then he was like, I was about to wrap it up. I was this close to wrapping it up. And he was like, wait, he's like, you mind if we, come back and finish this tomorrow or whatever? He's like, I'm having fun, but I'm just a little tired. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, tomorrow turned into almost a month later, but he come back, and he was in constant contact. Hey, I had this come up. Can we do it in an hour? Can we do it in 2 hours? What about next week? What Wednesday's perfect. We'll do it next Wednesday. And, long story short, we got him back on there, and we covered so much more. And it was like, we covered the Gotti movie that he did where he played John Gotti. He was able to actually talk to Gotti on the phone. And it was, if anybody's never heard the story, I'll tell it real quick. He said he talked to him and said Gotti was like, Tom, like, when's this movie coming out? He's like, well, I don't know, Mr. Gotti, with production, maybe a year and a half. He's like, don't fuck it up. And he's like, well, I'll do my absolute best. He's like, I promise you, I'll do my best. He said, don't do your best. Do better than that. And he hung up the phone.
Poor Tom, man. He was such a beautiful guy. We got along so good. Did this movie called Bad Frank together. Yeah. And as we're talking, it's funny because he sent me he would hit me from all angles, man. It was either a text or a call or then a Instagram message or a Facebook message, whatever. And he had like from a different page, I'd get a message like a request and it'd be like X2500. And he's like, Kev, it's Tom, call me. I'm like, weird. But yeah, he sent me a nice long message, oddly enough, like just maybe like 2, 3 days before he passed. And yeah, it's really unfortunate, man. He was a real gentle soul. He was hurting bad inside, man. And,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
unfortunate.
he broke it down to me where he was saying, he was like, he said, Wade, you're on set with Steven Spielberg, Michael Mann, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer. You're doing one of the greatest movie shootout scenes in history. He's like, then when that movie's wrapped, he's like, where do you go to get, much like we talked about earlier, when you're coming back from war, what do you do to feel that feeling? And he was open about his drug use. And he was like, he said, I went to drugs. And he was like, but when they called for the next movie, he said, I was able to quit it and then go back because that replaced the high.
Yeah.
But eventually you can only do that, I think, so many times before it's harder and harder to put down. But he was very, open about his substance struggles. And towards the end, this is what I was getting to earlier, and I kind of lost it. But to me, it felt really genuine. And he was like, when we were wrapping up, he said, Wade, he's like, I really enjoyed this. And he said, you've made this fun. And he's like, believe it or not, he said, I don't like talking to people, and I don't like talking to people about my work. He's like, but you made this fun. And, I really appreciate it, and stay in touch. And we did. We stayed in touch, and we were actually I was in the process of trying to put together like a little con or gathering or something like that here in Charleston where I live. And I reached out to him, and he was like, well, I'd love to. I've never been to Charleston. And he's like, at least not to do anything like that. And, unfortunately, like I said, we did lose him. And, he was such a great actor, and he was in such monumental films. But like, I would have never thought when I first started this thing, 2.5, 3 years ago, however long it's been, that I would be talking to a guy that was in Heat and Saving Private Ryan and Natural Born Killers, and now being able to kind of broaden that out and go to all these different directions and meet all these new people. It's so cool to be able to do that. And I'm glad that you were able to come on the show, tell us a little bit about your story. And I mean, it's, I'm just thankful that you guys, come on the platform to share these stories. And I'm thankful for all the listeners that watch. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do.
Oh man, that's super nice of you, dude. I'm just as appreciative of you having me on and even taking the time to watch the movie. And that's a testament to having good people around you. That's how you found out, Tom Levesque. Tom is one of, if not the major reason why Bastard Sons popped. And he was at a screening, and we just hit it off, and he just made that work, man. So it's cool how good people come into your life if you're open for it, and just gotta remember to put those roadblocks up for the other ones. But it's been a pleasure, man. I've known about your show for a minute. I was so happy when Tom told me about he knew you, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to talk to him if the opportunity present itself. So
well, I'm glad you come on. What do you have coming down the pipe that we can look forward to? Obviously, if anybody hasn't seen Bastard Sons, go check that out. Also, what was it, St. Michael in the City that you did?
St. Michael in the City, yep. And then there's another one that popped 3 months before Sons, and it's still going. It's called Malicious. It's a thriller horror, and that's on. It's free. Yeah, Sons is free on Prime, and Malicious is free on Prime and Tubi, and so is St. Michael. It's free on Prime as well, and Tubi. So they're all on there. Next, we just got greenlit, man. As of Monday, my next film called Dirty Hands is a go. So I wrote this at the tail end of COVID, way right before we shot Bastard Sons. I've been sitting on it for a minute, crafting this in my mind, and I'm playing one of the main roles in it with a good friend of mine, and directing it, producing it with my partner up in Chicago. And if you thought Sons was violent, yeah, this is gonna be a good one, man. It's a tragic story. I can't wait to do it. It's called Dirty Hands.
Do you kind of gravitate more towards these types of the pictures? I mean, is that kind of your niche? You think you're going to be fitting into with this?
You know what's funny? Yeah, yeah, I think so, man. And
you got it, when that's your thing, that's your thing. I don't want to see a comedy from Stephen King. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I enjoy my life. I'm a pretty easygoing, happy guy. I laugh a lot. I got good people around me. There's always an element of humor in my life. There's something else that's in there, man, that's been in there for a long time, even before the war and stuff. And I think that's just the best outlet that comes out. When I write, I don't force it. It's just kind of what comes out. And I guess something comes off when I audition or people offer me certain kinds of roles. So It's fun. It's a break. You know, when you're acting or you're making films now, there's no rules. You
Yeah.
know, there's no cops knocking on my door for playing a role. Anything that happens between action and cut is mine, and
Right.
I love it. I love everything that happens in that high, that moment. You know.
And I think it's a way that you can express yourself and let out certain things that you feel, even if it's just in your dialogue.
Yeah.
And then it's like you said, there's no repercussions for it. You know, you took out a lot of people and Bastard Sons, and you
Yeah.
didn't get cops knocking on your door. So you're
Yeah.
able to kind of fulfill it in a certain kind of way. I want to tell everybody, man, go check out Bastard Sons. The ending will really throw you for a curve. I like to fancy myself as a pretty savvy guy picking up on things, what might happen or who might have something to do with what. I'm a huge movie fan of all from horror on down the line, and I did not see that coming. I did
Wow.
not see it coming. So
Thanks,
it's
man.
definitely I urge people. We'll put a link to it in the show notes and the descriptions. Where can everybody find you on social media outlets if they want to go follow you?
Instagram is fine, but something, I got really more active on YouTube. I like it. I just started my own page, so someone could
I
just
was
search.
looking at that. I was looking at that today.
Yeah, I'm just kind of docking my journey. People always say to me like, what do you do? What's
Yeah.
your life like? And I'm like, I'll fucking show you. It's it ain't all rainbows and and peaches and cream, but it's it's what I do. It's how I live and what I live for, man.
I think people see that outside thing. Like in the last 2 years, I've traveled more than I have my whole life for the podcast. And so they'll see me like going to California or going to New York or going to Florida. And I was like, oh, it must be so cool. You get all to do this travel. And I'm like, yeah, it is cool. And I do enjoy it. But like, I'm always on a schedule. Like I got to go here. I got to do this. And then I got to go way over here and do that. So I don't have time to stop in the middle. I make the time when I can, at nighttime and, a little nightlife or whatever, but it is it's hard. And it's,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm on vacation. And that's what I tell these people. Like, it's not like I'm kicking back for 3 days, enjoying myself. It's always boom, 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 boom. And then got to get back to the, the regular gig. So sometimes it's cool for people to kind of see behind the curtain of what goes on.
Yeah, it's nonstop. But I put that pressure on myself, man. I'm only here once, bro. I had some scares in life, and I'm not even gonna call them scares. I had some checkpoints, man. I wasn't scared. There's moments where it just wasn't my time yet. And after that, especially having a daughter now, I'm like, all bets are off, So am I a workaholic? Without a doubt, man. I'm up early and I'm in bed late, and I work till I never stop before 10 o'clock, man, but it is what it is, I love what I do. I chose it. No complaints here, bro.
Yeah, it's the grind, man. And that's what I like. A lot of times I don't get in bed till 10 or 11. I'm not at the point yet to where I can have people do things for me. So I'm at a lot of the editing and stuff like that I have to do on my own. And I'm picky, kind of like a director and such. Like there's apps now that'll seek out certain things that they'll consider that'll have a good chance of going viral, and they'll put the captions in there for you, and it helps. And I use them sometimes, but I know at least what I want to hear. And I already have, as we're talking, when I hear certain things, I'll know what clip I want to put in or what type of picture that will go in. So visually, I'm doing it in my mind already. Yeah. And it's like, if I don't have it the way I want it, then it's not quite good enough. And, for me, you can only depend on AI so much. You got to have your custom spin on it. So,
no, I hear you, man. Well, you got a great pod, dude. You really have. I've been on a few, like you mentioned earlier, and I enjoy the way you interview everybody, and you really get to the inner beast and the inner questions that some people don't have the guts to ask and really explore, man. So I applaud you for that. It's a great show, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, thank you for stopping by. Everybody go check out Bastard Son. We're going to put links to all of his movies down here in the description box. Like you said, most of them are on free streaming platforms. We're fixing to have a 4th of July weekend. Most everybody will have it off. Go check out some great films, man. Kevin, I appreciate you stopping by the show.
Pleasure was mine, brother. I'll talk to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hollywood Way. That was Kevin Ninja Donato. We'll see you next week on Crime and Entertainment.
All right.